One.
Hi, welcome to Studio 411. I'm your host, Larry Dasilva. Thank you for joining us. And we've got a great show today. We've got recording artist Desiree Bassett. She's an American rock music guitarist and performer, considered a child prodigy. She's performed alongside mainstream performers such as Sammy Hagar, Ted Nugent, Barry Goudreau, founding guitarist of Boston, Marshall Tucker, members of the Allman Brothers Band, and so many more, as well as performing on her own, and also was featured in a Michael Jackson tribute show that was done by Cirque Du Soleil, and we'll talk more with Desiree shortly. She's released 3 studio albums and has performed on both sides of the coast as well as worldwide. Amazing performer. At a very young age, and we're glad she's joining us, and she's going to open up the show with a musical number. So sit tight, rock out with Desiree Bassett. That's some playing. Desiree, welcome to Studio 411. How are you?
Very good. Thanks
Very
for having
good.
me here.
There was like smoke coming out of those guitars, and she even broke a string. So we have someone diligently trying to repair that so we can do a number. Thank you for joining us. And again, just a phenomenal talent. As you can see, Desiree has got a couple of CDs. Actually, you have 3 total, and I assume are you working on a 4th as we speak?
I am,
There
yes.
we go, because I know your most recent one was, what, A Bit Above? And and she was just a wee lass here, and it's, my goodness, she's just come full circle. So again, just phenomenal stuff, and I know all the gang in the production studio, they're just rocking. They can't wait for that string to get fixed so we can hear some more. Desiree was named Best Musician by Talent America in 2005. And now, at that point, how old were you?
Oh gosh, I think I was like 12.
12, okay. So, and again, and you began actually your dad plays the guitar, so he got you started at a young age. I don't profess to know. I mean, I know your Gibsons, who I think has been or is a sponsor of yours, Les Pauls and Rickenbacker. Was it Paul Cantor of Jefferson Starship? I mean, he has massive Rickenbackers. I mean, just terrific. You know, if nothing else, great to look at. I mean, you tend to use what, Gibsons?
I use Gibsons, and I also play a lot on the one that you just saw, the Ernie Ball model. It's a John Petrucci model.
Wow. But now your dad, obviously that was the reason why you kind of started, but did he say, hey, pick up a guitar? I mean, what was your first guitar growing up?
Well, I started when I was 3, and it was kind of more like when I was little, it was something that was always intriguing to me. So when he would play, I would be sitting on the couch and watch him, and when he puts it down, I'll go up to it and start strumming it, or while he's playing, I'll just like pluck at it, and I just wouldn't leave him alone. So he kind of felt at that point, it's like, okay, maybe I just got to get her one of her own and just see what happens. So he bought me, it's like a Strat model. It's called a Lotus. It's like a kid-size Strat. And then on the top, he wrote like F and G and started teaching me chords and like a couple scales and like.
So that was an electric guitar. So wow. So not even like most parents would just say, you know, get her a cheap little acoustic guitar. No, he went and got. And how long did you play that particular guitar?
Up until I was 5, and I was like, I want to take yours, Dad. And he's like, no, this is mine. And he bought me a full-size Ibanez guitar, an RG series.
And now my understanding is at that point, when you were like 4, maybe 5, you already were learning like Joe Satriani songs.
I was, yeah.
That your dad, who at best was 20, 30 years older, obviously, and he couldn't master that. I just found that fascinating. So he was like, wow, I really got something here. Yeah. Now, is that music come throughout both sides of the family, or?
Well, my dad did it more for a hobby, and back in his days, he used to be a light technician, so he used to own the lighting equipment in Toad's Place in Waterbury before it was torn down, and he worked in the New Haven Toad's Place a while. And for a little bit, too, in my time that he played for me for like a side project. He played on the drums, and I had another bassist. We kind of did a small thing together for a while, but we had times where we would play together on stage. I would bring him up, and he would play rhythm guitar, but we always did everything together.
Yeah, we were talking off camera before we went on. I had seen Desiree again. It was what, 3 or 4 years ago, I think, when you did that club in Summers. I want to say
it was Joanna's Cafe.
Yes, yeah, that's what it was. I couldn't think of the name of it, but anyway, and I had actually gone there. We were doing some charity work, and I had contacted Barry Goudreau and Michael Antunes from the John Cafferty Beaver Brown Band. We know. So I walk in, and they're like, you know, everybody there was so nice, and oh yes, oh by all means, give us all these VIP stuff, and then we get wheeled in, and I'm like, okay, now I'm interrupting them while they're having dinner, and they're like, sit down and join us. So you know, it was a fun evening, and then you come out, and my wife and I were like just blown away. We were just like, where has this girl been? And for our viewers, again, Connecticut native. We always love to feature the Connecticut natives. Born what, Yale or St. Francis?
I was born
St. Raph.
I was born in the Yale Hospital.
In Yale, there you go. See, nothing but the best. Nothing but the best. Your dad for many years was your manager. Your mom, Myrna, again, always encouraging, I'm sure.
The most supportive mom I could ever have.
Yeah. Now, brothers and sisters?
Younger brother, younger sister, and I have a nephew.
And do they play music as well, or?
Yeah, they did it more for like a hobby, but my sister has like so many talents. Like you give something to her and she just picks up on it right away. She's played guitar, she plays bass, keyboard, she sings, she played clarinet for a while, harmonica. She's just like, anything you give her, she'll just pick it up and learn it. There you go. It'd
be like anytime you need a side musician, you've got it already in-house. We'll digress for a minute. I just want to go to this shot here because at a young age, I was going to say you probably were doing this, what, when you were like in your late teens or early 20s. Tell us about this couple of year engagement you had.
So basically it started, I just graduated high school and I was working at Ashford Elementary as a custodian with my mom, and I just decided not to go to college because I wanted to really pursue with music and see what would happen. And just sure enough, just like the music director for the tour, Greg Philliganes, he played with Eric Clapton and Quincy Jones and Michael Jackson. He called my dad's cell phone and saw my videos on YouTube, and he just said immediately that he wanted me. There's no audition or anything, just work out a contract. So months later, after the contract was worked out, it was an instant like that. Go to Montreal, I was already 18, going on 19, and it just happened like that. And just 3 years later, we're here now.
I mean, and again, before I forget to mention this, if not sooner than later, I'm telling you, you're a natural-born photographer. I mean, I've seen the photos. She likes makeup, gang, okay? But besides that, the imagery and the shots, obviously this was taken, I'm sure, by someone on the tour, but the shots that in places you visited, I mean, from Russia to, as you said, Montreal, Mexico, I mean, you've traveled the world. I mean, that's almost, like they say, like a rock star. And what some of your favorite places, experiences during that time with the Cirque Du Soleil?
Let's see. My top 3 favorite countries were Germany, Japan, and New Zealand.
Wow. Okay. And what about them? The culture,
Yeah, I'd say the culture,
Yeah.
the foods, and just the people in general are super nice. And it's always great to like learn different languages everywhere you go, even if it's like bits and pieces.
Sure.
It's just something nice to learn.
Germany's interesting. And we were just talking with some people the other night, and big fans of Eric Burdon of a long time ago, but he's still around, lead singer of the Animals, the Rock and Roll Hall of Famer. And someone was saying to me, geez, why is he playing so much in Germany? Well, they play in Germany because what people here don't understand is that Germany, they love their music. I mean,
They
if
do.
people think about it, that was where the Beatles got their start. I mean, so again, it just, phenomenal stuff going on.
Yeah, Europe, they definitely love their music over there.
Yeah. So now your tour there with the Cirque du Soleil, again, the Michael Jackson tribute, what kind of audiences were you playing? Were you playing like thousands of people every night?
Pretty much, yeah. We were just in arenas the whole time, anywhere from like 3,000 people to like 15,000 at most.
Wow, that's like playing Mohegan Sun every night. And then the the intricateness of the stage setting. I mean, as you saw earlier, the makeup, the costumes. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
And now Greg, who you were saying, the musical director, I saw him. He did keyboards with Toto when I saw him back
Toto.
in 2005. Wonderful arranger, conductor. I mean,
Oh,
he
he's
really
incredible.
he
Great
is.
guy to work with,
Oh
too.
yeah. But again, just I didn't realize. There are you with Bill Murray. I mean, it's just. She's mingling with everybody. We ought to be bowing to her here on Studio 411. Desiree Bassett is our guest for the hour. dbassett.com is the website. Again, her most recent CD, A Bit Above, and also I believe her second of 3 CDs, Power and Force 2. Now, what's the one you're currently working on now? When you're not touring, tell us a little bit about what's happening there.
Well, basically, I've only worked on probably like 3-4 songs with it so far, but it's definitely a lot different from the previous 2 albums. Power and Force 2 is more consistent of where I'm showing off a lot of like soloing, and it's like a heavier album. And A Bit Above is more of like a collaborative mix, almost like a pop mix between like mellow songs and kind of pop like tunes. And this next one is more like I'm trying to aim for kind of like a heavier album in terms of like maybe incorporate a little metal and a little electronic into it, but also to be able to show more vocals and to show a little more soloing.
You count among your influences, I'll just name a few and then you can rattle some others off. I thought it was an interesting mix. You got Jeff Beck, Jimi Hendrix, Allman Brothers, because those roll off the tongue. And this one does too, but it's kind of not in the mix. Reba McEntire, and then I realized as I read on, well, that was music you were exposed to. Someone in the family liked country.
Yeah.
And then you would actually, I guess, at night, either someone would sing you to sleep or you sang yourself to sleep, whatever. And it just, there you go, Reba fits in the mix.
She was a big idol of mine, yeah,
Yeah.
when I was little. She was the first concert I went to when I was 5.
Oh, really?
When they still
Okay.
had Yale Stadium.
Oh, okay.
So that was my first
Outdoor
concert.
when the was it the there was a ball team that used to play there. Yeah,
Yeah, I can't think of it.
was it the Ravens, New Haven
I
Ravens?
think
Yeah,
so,
they were
yeah.
there. Yeah, so they had put a lot of money into fixing up that area. Oh my goodness.
That was my first official concert.
Yeah.
And then my first rock concert was
See, and
10.
everybody thinks it's like you know, some of the young folks today. Who's the one that's always getting into trouble? Oh, I'm drawing a blank on it. You know, the young man who's always in trouble with the law. All the girls for a while wanted to go see him, or then going back to Backstreet Boys, whatever the youth du jour, we'll call it. But you've got some pretty good taste. Your personal idol, Joe Satriani. No, I know of Joe a little bit. Again, tell us a little bit about him. Have you met the man or no?
I've met him several
Yeah.
times, yeah, but it's one of my dreams to be able to play with him still.
Yeah.
I haven't been, but...
There you go. And now, actually, correct me on this one. I think I have it right. That's you and Dickie Betts, right, from Allman Brothers, which a lot of people don't realize that the song "Rambling Man," that's not Greg Allman doing vocal. That's Dickie Betts. So, and Dickie is out performing with his own band, and you know, good stuff. Good stuff. 2005 or thereabouts, you played on a side stage at Ozfest. That was around here for a few years with Ozzy, and that again, just as a kid that age, just I guess you just kind of rolls off your back. You know,
It's just something I enjoy to do. It's just,
Yeah.
I don't really think about it. It's just like I go up there and be able to play, and I'm just in my own world.
And then there was a gentleman that discovered you at an open mic night, Doug Wimbish. Do I
Yeah.
have the name correct? And next thing you know, you were playing at some annual events that he has, and now you do all over. For you to play a local gig, that's like Joanna's Cafe. That's like, oh yeah, okay, I'll be there in 5 minutes. I mean, after touring the world, I mean, some of the other stops must seem like just kind of passe.
I mean, after touring, it's like, it's nice to be able to come home on those week breaks and be like, hey, I can do my own music with my own band. It's been a while. It's a good refresher for me.
I was going to say, amazing you had the strength after all that, because that's got to take its toll. I mean,
It does, yeah.
I mean, over what, a 2-3 year period?
Yeah.
What, 9/10 of that time you were out on the road?
Pretty much, yeah. Like, I think every like 2-3 months, depending, we'll have like a week or even 3 weeks or a few days off or something.
Now, around 2005, I want to say it was probably the Power and Force 1 CD. You had recorded, was it 5 songs? So it was kind of almost like what we used to call an EP, correct? And then
yeah.
later it was kind of reinforced a little bit, playing all the instruments, and again, the self-made CD. Where, if I may ask, did you record the CD? Did you guys have a studio at home?
No, it was in one of my dad's friends. He had a studio in Wallingford, and we stayed over there for a little bit and recorded a few songs and just kind of put it together like that.
Nice, nice. Yeah, they're the kind of the word I'm blanking on. There's 3 or 4 well-known recording studios. One of our guests who's been on the show, Christine Ullman, who's got a band, Rebel Montez. Her brother Vic is a recording guy himself, and they've got a studio. I want to say it's somewhere down in the East Haven area. So again, that, and there's been a few others. There's one here in the West Hartford area, I think, too. But again, one of these days you're just going to have to spend some of that money and get a whole new recording equipment.
Well, right now I recorded at home, and I have Logic set up on my Mac, and it's been working pretty good so far.
Yeah, I saw an image of that. It's amazing with today's technology, with
it's
such,
incredible.
I mean, it looks like literally the size of this laptop, at least the photo I saw, and it really, what are the things I've seen them used at various concerts? Even the sound guys now at shows,
Oh, yeah.
they'll still have the big setup, let's say like the size of this desk, but they're going around almost like with something about 1/10 the size of this laptop, making
yeah.
changes almost like digitally. Say that 3 times.
Because I know a lot of bands will have like backing tracks or even like sound effects and stuff. They'll play it through like Pro Tools while they're doing the live performance part of it.
So, I mean, for now, would you feel comfortable at some point having a producer that you feel comfortable with, or
yeah,
several,
definitely.
and then doing that? I say that only because even with musicians, you don't want to get into that thing where you know, you don't have someone to bounce the ideas, because sometimes, you know.
Yeah, it's tricky. It's being able to find that one person you can kind of connect with musically, and to have a good like even level with them too. You can really just be able to communicate and share ideas together, feel 100% comfortable with them.
And now you've had the pleasure, I'm sure, of you know, sharing the stage, as I said earlier, people like Sammy Hagar. We talked about Barry Goudreau, Marshall Tucker. Again, has anyone you know, well known that we would know ever approached you other than like Cirque du Soleil and said, hey, you know, why don't you, you know, we're thinking of starting a band, or why don't you join? I think of like, again, like when a Sammy Hagar, who was already established, but when all of a sudden he had a chance to join Van Halen, that's kind of like what I think I see for you, is somebody says, hey, we got somebody who's dropping out, you know, like way before your time, but since you know Jeff Beck, he was with a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame band called the Yardbirds.
Oh,
and
yeah,
think
the
about it,
Yardbirds.
okay? In a 3-year period, they had, I'm going to get the order wrong, I'm going to say it was Clapton, Jeff Beck, and Jimmy Page as their lead guitarists.
Oh, wow.
And then I think, if I have it right, Clapton left to go to do Cream in the 60s. Beck came and then went on to do some stuff with Rod Stewart, and then the solo stuff. And then Jimmy Page, in effect, took what was left of the original Yardbirds and became Led Zeppelin. So,
wow.
I mean, again, but so, you know, I mean, I'm putting you in high company. You can't let me down. But but it's just, I think that's kind of what I see the outlet for you, is that you got to find somewhere where you've got some established people, and then just, you know, and then ride it. I mean, it's phenomenal stuff. Desiree Bassett is our guest here for the hour on Studio 411. dbassett.com, the website. And again, we've got Desiree a bit above, and Power and Force. All right. When you, or let's say the plans for the future, as far as the tunes that you mentioned that you're doing, how much of that is stuff that you compose? Let's say, what's an average disc now that you're playing, like a 12-cut CD perhaps?
Yeah, like 10 or 12.
10 or 12, and of that, how much would be original material, or that you would solicit from other people as well?
All of it's original material,
Yeah.
as in the same, the last 2 albums. It's
Yeah.
all original material.
All right, and I was going to say, well, part of that too is, and I've talked about this with some other musical guests we've had, again, it's people don't realize that putting a CD out, even in its simplest form, I mean, I've heard quotes from minimum 15 to 20,000 and up.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
And a quick story that we had the pleasure to hear recently, went to see The Who in concert, and we ran into a friend. I think you've met Mark Brett as well, as a friend of ours. And all of a sudden telling me, oh yeah, you're going to love the opening act, Joan Jett. And I'm like, Joan Jett? I said, what do you mean she's opening for The Who? So, I mean, that was like a cherry on top of the ice cream sundae, you know? I mean, she was fabulous, and I'm thinking, there's someone, I'm sure, that you know her music. And,
I love Joan Jett.
yeah, just phenomenal. Of course, that whole history with the Runaways, which again, I understand a lot of this is before your time initially, but you would agree that whatever field a person goes into, you know, it's important to know the history of what you're doing. You know?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
again, you got some big shoes to fill and to emulate, and then to some ways borrow from, and then also create your own legacy as well. I had read somewhere erroneously that you had these, like, you know, house literally full of guitars. How many how many do you have?
Oh my gosh, I lost count like after like 25, I think.
Oh,
And my
okay.
dad owned some of them too.
Oh, okay. I mean, I had heard there was, I knew it had to be a misprint. I said, somebody put a 0 in there. It was like 250.
Oh,
I'm thinking,
no.
I said, where's she getting all this money? I know there's some, you know, sponsorship deals or whatever, but now, in a case like these here, educate us. What style guitars are these?
The one on the left is a standard. It's a 2008 reissue of a 1960, and then this one is a newer model. It's a 2014, and it's a standard. And they gave me that one to be able to promote and endorse their new product that they came out. It's the Mini Tune, where it's basically on the top of the headstock they have like an electronic tuner, and it automatically tunes the guitar to whatever you want it to. Like, you can just have it to standard tuning, you can do half step down, or you can tune it as if it's like a piano. It's crazy. I've
Now
only
we just
played
need
with
to
it a
figure a
little.
way how not to break a string, and
Yeah.
that's why there's always, like at shows, a roadie or a tech person again that is, you know, amazing, because sometimes I'll be watching a performance and then my eyes will drift and I'll be like, oh, okay, they're great, but I got to watch this guy put this thing back together. And they hand it off and they take another guitar, or like you did, is where they're able to continue playing and not miss a beat. And
It's important, yeah.
Oh my goodness, I cannot believe it. You sat in 2008 with the Marshall Tucker Band. This was at a benefit. Again, I had the pleasure of seeing them a few years ago. I know there's only one or two original members, but
Yeah.
they seem to keep, you know, the legacy of that sound intact. And how was that? Again, a little different genre for you.
Yeah, it was very different. Actually, that day I was initially supposed to play with the Shabu All-Stars, and so
Okay.
I went there to go and watch them perform, and my dad talked to Doug and told him about me and that I could play, and he got curious about it, and I met him and got pictures with them and met the rest of the band. And Rick Derringer opened the show, and then it was Marshall Tucker.
Oh, another all-star.
Yeah.
My goodness, I've seen Rick several times. Again, you know, just tremendous.
Yes.
McCoy's Hang On Sloopy, and of course his work with Edgar
Rock and Roll
Winter
Hoochie
and
Coo.
Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo.
My favorite song.
There's a track on that album, and actually it was on the, I'll have to send you the what the track is, because I'm blanking right now. When I was a kid and I bought that 45, 45 is a little disc, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, that you'd put on a turntable. And the flip side, the B side of Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo is an instrumental, and I'm just for the life of me blanking on what it is, but you would love it. So I'll have to email that to you. There she is right there, sending one of her fans salutations and thanking for their support. I saw something where you send out at Christmas time, or you did for a while. I mean, you must spend a lot of money on postage.
Well, yeah, I do, but I mean, that's the second year. This past year was the second time I've done it. It was just kind of like out of nowhere. It's like, you know what? I want to give something to the fans for Christmas, and even though I can't like be there for them for Christmas, at least just like try to send out a couple cards here and there. It ended up being like, I didn't realize how big it would turn out to be.
Because social media gets a hold of that. I mean, these are folks that are standing there and they are holding the you know, the postcard or the photo, and it's like Santa brought them the greatest gift. And I'm thinking, wow, isn't that cool? And of course that helps, you know, promote you as well. And I'm talking folks from all over the world.
Well, I mean, it's important to me for the fans to be able to just give them a little something, and just to be very humble, and just all I want to do is be able to give and share my music.
There you go. I know recently, as we tape, you were overseas doing some gigs. Fill me in. I wasn't familiar with the folks you were playing with.
Oh, this is kind of the last minute, but so I went to Europe for a couple weeks, and I played with a famous drummer. He's been playing with like Mariah Carey, Busta Rhymes, Jackson 5, and who else?
Oh, he's got a long career.
A long
Holy
career,
cow.
but and then the bassist was Lindley Marth. He played with Josie Avenue and Kenny Garrett and a bunch of other big jazz artists.
And you guys were in Germany for one of the gigs, or?
We went to Germany, we went to Czech Republic, we went to Poland and Austria.
And now after a gig like that, do you guys get a chance to meet with the fans, you know, or like sell some CDs? So again, you're cultivating more people. This is why we have to get that new CD out. Is there a tentative title for the new CD yet, or no?
Not yet, no, but I'm kind of like in the works of trying to create some album artwork, and I want to build a couple more songs and try to get a really good picture of what the album title will be once I had the collaboration together.
Now, when you you write your own material, obviously, so is that something, do you also do the lyrics as well if you do a song? Okay. Has there been anybody either that we would know or maybe perhaps don't know that you've like said, you know, maybe I should pair with somebody, or, you know, just to do a, you know, kind of be your Bernie Taupin to your Elton John, you know, or, or you know, or McCartney to Lennon, whatever. And help me out here. This is
Devin Allman.
It is Devin Allman. Okay. And then now, is that that's Greg's son?
Yes.
And that's Cher's kid, or no, or didn't What was, oh, his name was Elijah Blue when he was
Yeah,
born. Is
yeah.
that him, though? I don't know if he changed his name. Maybe that's an older kid.
I don't remember.
And this is from a couple of years ago.
Yeah, the Honey Tribe.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm telling you, it's terrific stuff. Desiree Bassett joining us here for the hour on Studio 411. And she's going to play a little bit more for us in a few minutes. There's one that's going to come up. I'll talk about it now. What's a 15-foot dragon? Is that a guitar? That says that you own it must be a guitar that was signed by Sammy Hagar's band.
Oh,
No?
it was a Schecter guitar. It was a C1.
Oh, Michael Schechter? Yeah, yeah, that's the performer. Used to be with UFO, I think. Yeah, or maybe I have it wrong. But anyway, okay. But that's got an actual image of a snake on it. I know there's a photo we have here of a guitar you have. Yeah.
I think that was from the tour I just did in Europe, and my Les Paul has a little snake on it, the little tailpiece on it. I think that's what you're talking about.
There you go.
I think so.
Now, you talked about before that early on you had looked at going to college or whatever, and then you changed your mind. I had understood that you had also considered maybe going to Berklee College of Music, and then you decided to kind of change up and do your own thing.
Yeah, because it's not too late to go back to college. And I did get accepted and everything, so it felt great. But I just wanted to pursue my music and see where it would take me at first.
There you go. And she also has a fondness, ladies and gentlemen, for riding quads, dirt bikes. Family has a large estate, although I guess now you're living on your own right now, if am I correct?
I live with my boyfriend right now.
Yeah,
but
there you go. The aforementioned Kay, who I got a chance to meet. He looks like somebody I know, but I just can't picture who that is. Put a suit and tie on him or a superhero costume, and I might recognize who it is. But
everybody says Robert Downey Jr. Everybody says that.
There you go. Yeah, boy, as my mother used to say, you should have his money. So here's a recent shot of you. Again, it just, you know, you look at the dexterity with the fingers on the guitar. It's just amazing. I mean, again, like a natural born player you are. You know. Now was that from one of the recent tours?
It was for a show we did in March, actually with my younger band that I have put together. And actually, Kay's a part of the band too. He's the bassist.
Oh, so he's not just fixing guitar strings. No. Good man, good man.
He won't tell you that. I'll say it.
Okay, he's bashful. Okay, no, very nice, very nice. And what's the name of the band?
Right now it's just Desiree Bassett.
Okay, and you guys are mounting to play some gigs throughout the rest of this year and to the next? Yeah,
well, I'm in like 3 bands right now. So I have 2 original bands, this younger one, and then my original members, Rob Gottfried and Bob Laramie, who I've been with since I was 12. So they're my original band. And there's this other project I'm in called Operation Electric, where it's basically top 40 Billboard charts and like 80s, 90s, like all the popular tunes. And we'll be having our first show actually, when is it? The 28th actually, for a fundraiser that they're doing. This guy, Frank, his name was, and he called me up and said that they were doing like an auto body fundraiser and like an animal rescue fundraiser, and they asked if they could have a band out there. So that will be our first show.
Nice, yeah, excellent. And I see over here we've got love the T-shirt, and it's good stuff. That's something I know my wife is a big proponent of. We go see bands, and it goes, you know, you don't have a T-shirt, or especially a ladies' cut. So take that advice. Always have a ladies' cut, either with a scoop or a deep V, whatever it is you ladies
the V's
call
are popular.
Yeah, exactly, and you have to have you can't have the one size fit all. It doesn't work.
It doesn't always work that way.
dbassett.com. Desiree Bassett joining us here on Studio 411 for the hour. Oh my goodness, again, we talked about you've got your brother Justin and sister Jessica, again, acts as your backup singer. You went to school in Storrs, Connecticut. Again,
I did, E.O. Smith High School.
Nice, quiet place to grow up. Again, kind of that quiet part of the state.
Yeah, very quiet.
Yeah, don't have a bad storm because you'll lose power for days or weeks.
It's true.
Get a generator, folks. Get a generator. You consider yourself primarily an instrumental player. Again, we talked about your influences. when you do the music you're doing now with the various bands and components, do you sing some songs? Do you have singers that work with you as well, or a kind of a mix?
It's mostly me that sings.
Yeah.
I think in the cover band that I do now, between the 6 of us, we do mostly backing. We have one singer, so I'll do a couple songs where I'm singing, but in my other 2 bands, my main bands, I do all the singing.
There you go. We talked earlier too about Desiree playing with the Cirque Du Soleil Michael Jackson, the Immortal World Tour. Like so many people, I'm sure, that saw the This Is It movie that came out after Michael's untimely passing. There was a young lady that was in that movie who was the guitarist. I don't know if you know her.
Orianthi.
I mean, she's
incredible.
I mean, is that somebody that you had a chance to meet and then play with ever, or no?
I met her one time. I was about 14 and she was playing at the NAMM show at the Marriott Hotel, and that was kind of the first time I met her, but ever since then, I didn't really hear much about her until it was like I heard that she was playing with Michael Jackson. I was like, oh, I know her, I met her.
Yeah, and again, it was, through, all the tragedy, again, it's hard to believe it's already been more than 5 years since his passing, but again, the folks that were working with Michael, had enough creative ideas to put at least that movie out, which again gave you a little inkling, and I'm sure if you saw it, then helped you when you had a chance to then go work with Cirque Du Soleil. And then you're thinking, man, I mean, the costume changes alone. I mean, how long were you guys, let's say you'd arrive for a gig, and the show, let's say, would go on at 8 o'clock in New Zealand. You'd arrive there, I mean, you're already there maybe the night before, I don't know, or there'd be a day off in between. How much time in makeup and rehearsal?
Usually, so the first day that we're there, we'll have a sound check at around like 5 o'clock in the afternoon or 4, depending. And that would usually be like a half hour, 45 minutes, depending on the venue. And then afterwards, I would go and do my makeup, and that usually took me about a little over an hour to do, and then put on my costume. And for the wig that I have, it's just like somebody braids it, and then I would clip it on, so.
Amazing, amazing. And again, everything seemed like, all the ladies and gentlemen were poured into these costumes. I mean, I look at it and think, could they even breathe? And I'm thinking, there's the shot I was talking about with the snake. That's a cool looking guitar, folks. Yeah. But again, to be able to then move the way you had to, I mean, and plus the shoes, although you seem to handle heels quite well, but again, still, that's that's on top of everything else.
Oh, the heels took a lot of training for me, definitely.
And no, those were not even just so much like spike heels. They most look like the old platform shoes.
Yeah, I had like wedges for mine. Otherwise, they would have put me in like regular heels. And I told them, it's like, well, I'll be stepping on pedals here and there, and if I'm going to be running back and forth, I need to be able to have the flexibility. And eventually, they let me switch into flat shoes, which was better.
Any interesting anecdotes about like snafus that happened, maybe that the audience didn't realize, either to you or to some of your castmates? I mean, anything ever like short out or win a miss that people all of a sudden, okay, whoa, I didn't even know what happened,
Yeah, it happens. So sometimes people miss cues, or sometimes we'll have like technical difficulties and stuff, but they always had the backup generators, or if somebody's like instrument cut out or something, then they would like put on a backing track, or it's like they, would go and fix the problem, and you just have to like fake play it and just kind of act it out and just like, be in full show mode no matter what.
But now when you were doing that gig, at least on your end, that was all you live. There was no like guitar lip syncing, if you know what I'm saying. No,
it's only like if somebody was sick, and then they would put their track in for like a sick track, or at the very least they have Michael's track, and then they have maybe some like orchestral tracks, but everything else is live.
And now that was, when you say Michael, because I know on the posters I saw, again, he was front and center. Obviously, this was with the permission of the state, the estate, I should say, and the promoters. That was, so he actually, you were witnessing live people, but then working in effect with almost like the spirit of Michael Jackson.
Yeah, exactly.
That must have been amazing.
It was intense, and I think the rehearsal period was probably the hardest piece. Like, to be in a room full of just wonderful, talented musicians and some of Michael Jackson's original band members, and for them to watch them play it, it's like even like just relearning some parts, because they had to redo some of it, and some of the clips that we got were actually tracks locked away in a vault, and they would have to travel around with the briefcase handcuffed to them all the time and bring it
Wow.
into the studio. So it was like to relearn the parts for them and then just learn new parts and watch them experience it. It was an emotional roller coaster. It's like they'll feel like so much joy, and there's a part that they would remember Michael and they would break down in tears. It was very, very emotional. But
Amazing. And I hear there's still stuff supposedly somewhere in the vaults. But again, there's a double-edged sword with that. There's some that think, you know, some of that probably was not up to his standards. But again, you know, there have been other people that passed. I recall, again, someone way before many people that are tuning in, a gentleman named Jim Reeves, who had a big hit that people would know from back in that 50s, early 60s, called It'll Have to Go. He dies in a plane crash, kind of like Patsy Cline, who was a country singer you might know. And the widow, who had the rights to his recordings, because he had a studio in his home, and he was on RCA Records, continued to release an album a year for 20 years.
oh wow.
I mean, so, I mean, this was like, you know, and then actually they kind of got a little morbid later on. They actually did a duet with Patsy. So when that came out in the mid-70s, it was like, well, geez, we're doing like duets with two plane crash victims. You know, it was kind of spooky. You know,
Yeah,
or
it
Elvis
seems like
singing
it.
with Linda Ronstadt. I mean, some different things. And I'm sure I had heard that there was supposed to be a Michael Jackson, Freddie Mercury,
Really?
2 or 3 songs that they had recorded.
Oh, I didn't know
I
that.
never heard them. You know, and of course Freddie's been gone for almost 25 years. So Desiree Bassett joining us here for the hour on Studio 411, dbassett.com. Here's a shot of one of her most recent performances. Again, make sure I pronounce the name, Linley Mart and Blue Moon. So, and again, we had guitar, bass, and drums. Desiree on lead guitar, and again, the folks in Europe and parts of the world had a treat there. Any gigs like this coming up that where you've going to be going overseas?
Not at the moment.
No?
I'm working on some tentative dates right now, but I know I have like a couple of small solo stuff I'm doing, and then there's the show with Operation Electric on the 28th, and that'll be in, I believe, close to Torrington. I can't remember the city at the top of my head, but
Going back to 2008, you had a chance to perform at the Woodstock 40th Anniversary Music Festival, where you covered a Jimi Hendrix version of the Star Spangled Banner. That must have been, because I remember the movie Woodstock, and of course, his version just lit up the place, and I think woke people up, if I recall, on day 3 or 4 of the event in Woodstock. And then ended the night with Purple Haze. So there's another one that came out with a new CD about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. First week out, #1 in the country.
Ooh.
Yeah, and that's I think was the he holds the record for the longest deceased to have a #1 record.
Wow.
I don't think there's anybody even close. I mean,
That's incredible.
it is. But again, there's a situation where someone now has firm control of the rights to a lot of music.
Yeah.
And these people, they just weren't, doing drugs and doing a couple of gigs, doing drugs. So nothing else for someone like yourself. It's kind of like what not to do and then what to do. And I think a lot of it with a lot of these people is constantly recording, recording. Because I think a big bugaboo of mine, I know, with certain people, certain artists, I'm not going to say anyone in particular, but you wonder sometimes if they get to a certain level where they lose a creative edge, or they, for whatever reason, they just lose interest, and then they don't seem to do anything.
Right.
So you're much too young. You've got, use Joan Jett as your inspiration. you got plenty to do. Let's see. Do we want to have Desiree do a number to close out the show? Yeah, you think that's we'll do that and take us out again. The CDs, the most recent one, A Bit Above, and then we've got Power and Force 1, and I'm holding 2 in my hand, and certainly we want to have Desiree back when the next CD comes out. dbassett.com. how can you not go to that site after seeing that shot? Okay, and we appreciate you coming by to talk with us.
Thanks for having me.
We're just going to take a quick break here, and then Desiree's going to play us out. Thanks for coming by.
Thank you for having me.
I don't know about you, but I'm exhausted. I had to take my coat off and loosen my tie. The room is literally ablaze with energy here. We thank Desiree Bassett for coming down and talking with us for a few moments and playing some great rock and roll for us. Again, you'll be hearing much more of her, I promise you. And again, we look forward to having her back on the show when she has some more stories to tell and also some new music to share with us. So again, her website, dbassett.com. And again, we just had a great time tonight, and we thank you. I'm your host, Larry Dasilva. We will see you again very soon on Studio 411. Have a great evening, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.